Well, it's another day and I haven't gotten much done. I went to the store yesterday. I picked up the bits and pieces. I did manage to put back the bed chain. I did buy bolts in the end. Took two links out, bolted it together, and it was late. It was after dark almost. Took me far longer to go get the bits and pieces and make my stops than I really wanted. But anyway, got the jack that I'm gonna weld on when it's not pouring rain and figure out what to do with that. It's been raining most of today, hard at times. I did get some FERT delivered. Got 2 tons of urea. I'm gonna go tarp that up because I've got nowhere dry to put it. So fortunately it's well wrapped and they're in individual bags. So another tarp over that make me feel safe about leaving it there. And then I was just coming out to check on the calves and the heifers. Cows are out in the field. I really wanted to get that manure spreader done and out of here. I know I'm not going to be able to find tires. I've got to put out some feelers on tires for the manure spreader. Getting everything else wrapped up will be good. There's going to be a window this week. Let's see, today's Tuesday, rainy tomorrow, and I'm also got visitors tomorrow. And then Thursday, it might be sunny. And then Friday, a bit more rain. So if I can get some of that urea spread out down below or some manure, if it's not too wet. We've had a lot of rain, another 1/4 inch today so far. But yeah, 2 tons of urea that I need to protect. So yeah, it just depends on if everything's too wet. I don't need to fertilize the big field. Thankfully, I got that done till after it's grazed. But down below where they're grazing, I want to get those fertilized for immediate regrowth. And fortunately, I have a tarp right here. So we'll just get this put over this urea. I have to move the excavator out of there, get it brought up here. Hopefully I'm gonna get some welding done to repair the bucket.
They're pregnant still.
So I've cut the old jack free. I'm gonna try and reuse the same jack frame. I know it's squared around, but use the same spindle thingy to put the new jack on. See what happens. Okay, that is clearly a no-go. So plan B. So I've cut off the tourney bracket thing. Actually, there was a big C-clip that went in there that held it on the ring, and I took that off because obviously that doesn't fit. And I tried mounting the hardware that came with the jack. It was a pivot affair, but it didn't make sense. It doesn't make sense to offset the jack and have it hanging in here to lift when really it wants to be right up against there. So I'm gonna cut off the disc and just weld the jack to the frame of the trailer or the manure spreader. It'll be out of the way of this control arm, and I don't see where anything swinging from the back of the tractor turning or anything would affect the jack being there permanently. I don't need it to swing up out of the way because it's got a drop foot. So I'm just going to weld the sucker to this and be done with it. So I found something that may work for putting the shield up. It's not it's exactly what I had in mind, but it's a little heavy duty, a little overbuilt, and maybe it's going to be a lot of work to fit, and it may not work. I don't know, but we're going to try it. Looks like this thing, if I cut it here and got rid of this, that gives me 2 L's. I got the post built in, so I would just weld this and the top of the post on right there. It seems like it could work, and I don't have to do that much to it. It's scrap. It was in the scrap iron pile. It came with something, and I think it was just thrown in the bin, part of an auction purchase. So I'm gonna see what happens if I cut it apart. Okay, so I've got it cut apart, and with a little bit of grinding I can make it work better. I think that'll go right like that. I think there's enough meat in this base part to weld to the side here, and that should hold it. It's just a light rack. We'll see what happens. Well, that didn't go well. Rusty, painted metal, wind, rain, and a welding helmet that wouldn't auto darken. And when it would, and then wouldn't lighten up. So need to get a new one of these. I think this one's seen better days. But anyway, I got it up. I still have to do some fitting and some grinding to get it to fit better, but that's done. The trailer jack is on. I still have to get new tires for the thing. That's going to be whenever I can find some at the junkyard. I'm going to have to call around. These are fine for now, for on farm, and I got to get this going and use it in the next couple days. I think we're going to get some. It was mostly dry today. We had a lot of rain the last couple days, and if it's a little breezy today, and tomorrow there are some spots I may be able to get some manure spread on, which would be fantastic. And I still have to test to make sure the bed chain works, but everything else looks like it could be down good. The forest, setting up the next grazing cell for the cows. It's this long, narrow section coming off the bridge. And the grass isn't overly hectic in this section. There's patchy spots. But if I were to wait for it all to catch up, graze them somewhere else and then come back to this. Sorry, I just got to hook a line. Then by the time they got back here, this stuff would be too far gone. The majority of it, and the rest will have caught up. So my idea is, I don't have any posts down here. I thought there were posts. My plan is to graze it now and not expect a lot of yield. Give them today and tonight in here, and then come fertilize it so that everything will pretty much be caught up by next time they're down here. So I just got to go find some posts, and then I'll come back to this. There's a lot more grass here than I was thinking. It's obviously grown up in the last couple days. I was in this paddock measuring the grass last Friday. It's Thursday today, so we've had a week of growth almost. Clover's not exactly tall, but it'll fill in after the grass is grazed off. So the grass is at the right stage, is majority of it. So we'll get this grazed off. Still looking for posts, and then come down here on the weekend and fertilize all this so it grows better next time. It'll be more consistent. One of the many reasons that projects like that never get finished are because of projects like this. This is the screen to the back hall packing area for the creamery. And it gets incredibly hot this time of year because of all the cooling for the cheese caves. And that wasn't a consideration when we built the place. We didn't really think about the ventilation. There are a pair of windows that I built down in that corner, but they were never finished. They're casement windows, which is a different problem because they open outwards. And so this screen sits in there, and last year we noticed a little rodent had gotten on the ledge, or something had eaten away at the, they don't make window screen material out of metal anymore. It's just nylon mesh. So this year I'm putting hardware cloth, 1/4-inch hardware cloth on it. So to hopefully prevent that, because what happens is we'll put a fan in front of this to help draw the hot air out of the building. So this will make it a little bit better, but this is what I'm doing today. I've got to muck out the barn. That's the next thing, but I figured I better do this while I'm clean. Took me a minute to find it in the barn because I haven't used it for a few years, but this is a little 1/4-inch maybe trim stapler. So handy for reupholstering furniture, putting mesh on in places, and putting trim in. But yeah, handy to have something like that kicking around if you're gonna do things like this. We use CoolBot units to chill the cheese caves. It's basically a computer controller that intercepts and tricks a regular air conditioner into getting colder than it normally does. And they work really well. They're super efficient. And they work perfectly for the caves where the temperature wants to be, I think, 52 degrees. Don't quote me on that. Works perfectly in the cheese caves, and also for creating the little walk-in. Oh, and so I had ducted those air conditioner units out into the, I'm looking for, oh, there it is. Duct the air conditioner units out into the back hallway with the thought was in the winter it would keep that space warmer and it would generally reduce the load on the rest of the heating system. The idea was they would keep the building warm in the winter, and I hadn't really thought beyond that. So now they're keeping it too hot in the summer. Now I'm back here behind the buildings where no one ever sees because it's a mess. And we're still in construction zone back here with the new parlor and the old new barn and anything else we're trying to do here. So we're got these windows here, and I need to get up there and open that window. The idea was that Allison would be able to work in the back hallway and look out this pair of windows and be able to see cows grazing, etc. The windows are always blocked with either a fan or plastic covering them in the winter. These were home-built windows. I made these myself because we didn't have any money to put in proper windows at the time. I am actually, and this whole thing needs finished back here. So I'm actually thinking we're going to buy a pair of windows to put in here that aren't these casements. They don't have mechanisms that work. They open outwards. They catch the wind. They catch the rain if it's sudden downpour in the summer. So we're just gonna replace them with some sliders. I think that'll make her life easier inside. She can open them and close them as she needs, and we don't have the falderall. And I can definitely repurpose these windows somewhere else. So, but anyway, for today, I'm gonna open this window, let all that hot air spill out. The screen is in place now, and I'll put that fan in and we'll get that working. Well, I took advantage of the fact the cows are going to be out and grazing to clean up the slop that was the barn. We had 3 inches of rain and then more rain and more rain, and we've gone out on grass, and we were feeding a higher protein silage. The silage I bought was much better than anything they'd been eating in the last month. So it causes looser stool in the cows. The grass causes looser stools. The rain made this a sloppy mess. This is one of the reasons I like to use wood chip as the bedding material for my modified compost bedded pack system, is that it allows the water to infiltrate through and come out. I don't feel well. And manure and bedding, because I ran out of chips, so I've been putting down mulch hay. Now that that's gone and there's more air movement going to get through here, the calf bed will dry out faster because the water pressure isn't as great holding the moisture in there, so it drains out faster. But the bucket on the skid steer is not practical for doing this kind of work. Dry bedding, winter bedded pack, great. It's mostly solid. In the winter, the urine is frozen. There's not a lot of liquid. But in the spring, and once they hit grass and are still in the barn at night, it gets to be a mess. But what I need for the skid steer, and I keep looking for a used one because I just can't bear to spend the price on new one, is a squeegee for the skid steer I could have just squeegeed all this out. And the other thing I really think is going to have to happen before this barn here gets built is I'm going to have to cement that ramp. And that's been highlighted by the amount of manure and slurry that's out on that. And now that I've scraped it multiple times, I'm just gouging up stones left and right. So I put, not only is stealing the paid stones, the stones that I paid to put down and make a nice firm bed there, but it's also now going to be spreading those stones out in the fields where I will hit them with mowers and dull knives and stuff. So that's not great. So I really need to throw some concrete in that section. Just down here in the forest, this patch over there is Bennett, and I'm about to open up the lane so they can come into the new section for tonight, and they'll get all this tonight. It's just enough. But the good news is tomorrow in the morning, they're going out to the main pasture. It's growing, it's taking off. It's growing like crazy. So there's enough for here. I mean, normally I try and get 2 days out of this section, or at least a full day just out of the half that they're going to have for tonight. So I'm not worried about them going hungry. They've just come up for milking. So I'm going to open this gate here. So I let them out after milking, they'll come down and they'll go into this second half. Need to figure out some better, less temporary gates, because this isn't quite practical. That's what I like to see. Eager, enthusiastic employees on their way to work. Good morning, Nettle. Hi, sweetie. Okay, keep going. Everybody up the hill. Come on, Mabel. Head up the hill. Time for milking. Hi, Libby. Come on, ladies. Head up the hill. Bramble, Trixie, up. Come on. What are you waiting on? Come on, Lanamu. Come on, you two. Hurry up. That was the first night the cows spent out overnight on grass. I'll go look at the results in a minute. This is the hardest set of fields to get the cows back from, because if they really, come on up the hill, if they really don't want to leave the forest or the grass, then getting them up this hill is a challenge. First thing in the morning, sometimes at night too. Up we get, as soon as I can close this line, I can. Come on, Luna. You're gonna hit the water hard. Everybody's gonna be at the trough because there isn't. Figured for a day it wasn't worth setting up a trough down here. They can shuttle back and forth to the barn. But now I've got to go get the field lines and set up their new paddock. So tomorrow, Marianne's bucket's getting fixed. Fingers crossed. So I don't remember if I mentioned before, I sold the small square bale grapple for the skid steer. I was kind of hanging on to it to use for big square bales. I just decided, there's some things up in the air, and I just decided, let's get rid of it. The guy called me about it, and I thought, well, why not? So he showed up. He didn't want to pay the asking price. And I said, I'm kind of firm. But I noticed he was a mobile welder. I said, I got this excavator bucket that needs fixed. Why don't we trade the rest of it? So he paid me the upfront part. and he's going to come and finish off, hopefully, fingers crossed, tomorrow. He said he'd come. Just talked to him. It depends on the weather, but he's going to come and put the teeth back in the bucket. I don't remember if I said probably last winter, well, coming in last fall, I was moving a stump and busted one of the teeth out, and a short while later I had to move a log and the other tooth came out, and I've had to use this all winter to move the manure pile back and forth and to move some logs around. So it hasn't gotten any better. I see some bigger cracks. So it definitely needs to be fixed because I got a lot of work to do down below with this. I'm gonna get it put up in the, Marianne put up in the dooryard now. Part of the problem is definitely the thumb hitting on those two teeth and breaking it out, but I see now a crack developing here. This one's getting bad. I think I'm gonna have them try and weld that. And on the other side, there's a hole in the back of the bucket. Maybe fill in this side of the bucket and fit that back. Whole bucket's pretty beat up, and I really hate the manual thumb. I need to fix that and get a hydraulic set up, but this excavator doesn't have the third service for that, so I'd have to add that. When I priced Quick Attach to change the buckets to more usable buckets, it was about $5,000 to do, plus the cost of a new bucket or new used bucket. And to put the hydraulic thumb on was going to be about $8,000 because I got to put a switch, hydraulic switch in the cab. I could steal the offset boom hydraulics and use the foot pedal and just run some new lines down, but haven't done it. It would be really handy for the amount that I need a hydraulic thumb. You know, a thumb that actually moves would be great, especially when I'm picking up logs and stumps and moving stones and things. But this is what I got. This is what I got to deal with. I would like to have a different bucket, one without teeth, like a big ditch bucket. But I'm afraid I haven't ever taken the bucket off because I'm afraid once I do, it's a monkey's nest, and those pins and bushings are all going to have to be replaced in order to put on any kind of a new bucket. It'd be so sloppy. This one's already sloppy enough. All right, I got to get this parked up in the dooryard and get on with other things. And so we're putting the heifers out on grass tonight. Just a little tiny little paddock, just to get them, again, get their system cycled up to eating grass. And it still gets silage during the morning, and then they come out here. But I'm only going to do that for a couple days because we're almost out of silage. I still have to feed the calves, the infants. And so these guys should be good. They've been on Joy and Astrid couldn't be any more the picture of health. And I think that they're big fat pigs, and they sort of stole grain and feed from the others. So now everybody can have an even playing. The one we're worried about is Mimsy because she's a dwarf. I don't quite know why she's so tiny. So anyway, we're going to be monitoring her. There is a problem with putting animals on grass in the spring when we've got these hot, cold cycles, is that there can be a mineral imbalance in the grass, which causes a mineral imbalance in the animals. It's called staggers or tetany or hypocalcemia. It's a calcium magnesium imbalance, and I've lost sheep to it, which is another reason why I don't run sheep, but is also one of the reasons I've been super nervous every spring about turning the cows out to grass. Now, cows aren't sheep, and we feed our cows, but in that case, I'm pretty sure what happened was I got overeager, was young, didn't know a lot, and spread manure in the spring, and then then we had one of these hot one day, cold the next, rainy, warm, windy, off again, on again springs, kind of like now, and put the sheep out in a net fence ring. I don't know how. I wonder if I could do some detective work and go back and see the dates of when, because I know I have pictures of it, when I spread the manure and when the sheep were grazing it, because it's either nitrite poisoning or tetany. Anyway, the only way you can tell your animals have tetany is from the sudden onset of death. And so I came out one morning and found a bunch of sheep dead and some others in the process of dying, only a few of which we were able to save, with the vet coming promptly, fortunately, in that case. In cows, it tends to not end up in death right away. They sort of stagger and weave. That's why it's called staggers. It has to be a vet treatment. So we don't want that to happen. I never want to go through that again. I've heard of whole cows being turned out onto fields and the whole herd dying from it. So it is a concern. I don't think it's going to be a concern here. This is grass that is lush, but it's also been growing for a while, and by ramping them up, by giving them silage in the morning, grass in the evening, that helps their system acclimate to it. And also we've been feeding them minerals up the wazoo, and they've been getting a grain supplement, so I'm really not that concerned. The sheep weren't at that time, the sheep weren't getting any grain, and they were probably on pretty marginal hay, so it was a hard learning experience. So I am back in the parlor at the moment. It is raining viciously hard. It's been a morning. I came down to start milking, to get rid of the cows, to bring them in from the field to get ready for milking, and there were no cows. The gate at the end of the barn that's normally closed to block off the wood chip area was wide open, and the cows had gone out the back, down a steep precipice, and out into the lower field where they were contained, but not ideal. And them climbing up and down that steep precipice was not, it's almost vertical. Good thing jerseys are hardy. Look at them, they're all calm now, but it was a thrash for about 45 minutes. When it's raining like this, smartphones become useless. You can't touch the screen. A raindrop will hit the screen and errantly open up an app you're not looking to use. Trying to call Allison to get her to help me did not work. Siri did not work. Clusterfuck, to put it mildly. And I was just out in the field changing the lines, which I actually have to go back out now because I see some discoloration in the grass I want to take a photograph of. But again, it's pouring. Sorry, I covered you up to keep the phone dry. It's pouring rain enough that even with my hands in gloves, taking them out of the glove to operate the phone, it's just too wet. And so the phone was useless. So I had to come in here, into the parlor, dry my hands, dry the phone. Now I have to go back out into the field to take a photograph of what I was seeing, because there's some mineral deficiency in the grass that's kind of crucial to identify and correct. Because if it's in a few, it's going to be in more. And it could be a insect infestation. I don't know what it is. I gotta find out what causes that. Anyway, it's raining so hard. We got more rain today. And I think we get almost a week of no rain, which we need because the ground is saturated. I'm walking through puddles. Technically, I shouldn't even have the cows out. The raindrop just hit the screen and changed the focus. Technically, I shouldn't even have the cows out here because they'll pug up the field and could damage it. But they have no choice but to graze out here. Now, fortunately, they're jerseys, so they're on the lighter side, but it could be a real mess. I'm going to try it this afternoon, and hopefully they don't make a thrash or a muddy mess of this field. But we really don't need any more rain. If the water table is this high, where it's coating the ground with water, that means the roots aren't going to go all the way down where they should be. They'll start dying back as they're drowning, and the grass will be less productive. Where you'd think lots of rain and would be beneficial, too much water is the same as not enough, and it's really disheartening. All right, here we go. Here's the discoloration, and there's a bigger patch too. I don't know if it's just in this section of the field, if it's just too wet. The color. Cows are doing a nice job grazing otherwise. There are some wheel tracks from when I spread that urea earlier, and I'm not happy to see them lingering. And here you can see the muddy track the cows made there, and they're coming up this little rise. They kind of made a scratty mess of this, but that's just because this is on a hillside. I think up there they'll do all right. So the camera probably doesn't do the color of the browning justice. It makes the grass look nice and green, which it is. Lovely 40 shades. But I gotta figure out what that is. And it's only in one patch, so it could just be too much moisture right there. And the other problem with too much moisture, and the other reason grass doesn't grow well with too much moisture, is it washes the nutrients out of the ground, so they're not getting the uptake of minerals and nitrogen and everything that makes grass grow. So it becomes basically watery grass. Any fruit or product that's watery has less sugar in it because it's got more water and the nutrients and less dry matter, and that is partly because the water washes those nutrients away. So yeah, I could really be done with this rain.